Hello, my name is Elaine Geyer, and I'll be discussing what I've learned about formative assessments. Uh, in my first article that I read about how assessments impact teaching and students, and that formative assessments use constant feedback. I found that really interesting because every little thing that a student does and a teacher can observe or ask questions about can be seen as some form of formative assessment because those assessments happen while a student is learning, and teachers can adjust where they're at in their lesson based off of what the student is expressing. In the second article, I read Assessing Basic Fact Fluency, and one of the interesting things that I learned from that article was that time tests don't effectively assess student knowledge, and it causes great anxiety with students. This form of assessment isn't a very efficient assessment because of the amount of anxiety it produces. It doesn't actually allow students time to process their thoughts and apply strategies that they've learned. There's a thing called strategy application, and it's more efficient and effective than knowing something from memory. And when you are looking at how a student got to a point, you can actually see their thought process, as opposed to knowing from memory, which it's just there on the paper. It doesn't have any steps to it. I thought that the interviews were really important to discuss because it actually allows you to hear and understand how a student got to that point from their own perspective and point of view. And observations allow you to see how a student completes a task without intervention and without immediate stimulus from a teacher. The teacher that I interviewed is Miss Hop. She is a transitional kindergarten teacher. While we don't do complex mathematical problems, we do counting and patterns and shapes and other basic math, algebra and stuff like that, like the building blocks, the foundation of what math is. It's more of identification where we're at right now. However, later on in the school year, we will be discussing mathematical applications for addition and subtraction. With how she does assessments, she observes students while they're working and sees how they're interacting with their peers as well as how they're interacting with the problem that they're working on. If it's identification, she is actively asking questions like, what's this? How many sides does it have? Do you know its name? And she makes immediate corrections if possible, and that's how she uses those formative assessments to help meet a child where they're at and help them grow from there. And then she also allows for downtime between assessments to allow a student to actually absorb the information that they've been given. Something that I am going to take from this experience is that I'm going to allow students time to process the problem and apply strategies that they've learned to hopefully see where they're coming from and how they're thinking of solving a problem, and giving them ample opportunity for their brain to actually process what the problem is and try and figure out a way to solve it. And then I am also going to allow students to tell and show me how they solved a problem through them working with me individually and also with their peers in more of a group setting to like show what they're actually doing. I felt like this entire experience was very informative and that my students will be able to actually benefit from what I've learned today. I don't really have any questions about formative assessments. It's pretty straightforward. They are assessments that form during the child's learning as opposed to summative assessments where it's at the end because it's the sum of all parts. Yeah, thank you.